Welcome to Stories of Hope. I'm Christine Hotchkiss. Each week I bring you stories that will inspire you, educate you, and give you hope. But I also love spotlighting the nonprofits in the area that are making a difference in a lot of people's lives. I want to thank my studio sponsor, the Motivated Mind Group, your global creative agency located right here in downtown Chandler. As well as I want to thank my business sponsor, the Ronald McDonald House Charities. Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central and Northern Arizona is a welcoming home away from home for families with children facing medical challenges, providing an atmosphere of comfort, love, and courage. And as I always say, everyone wants to feel that they have somewhere that they belong, and we all should have a place to call home. Today, my guest is Kerry Schulman. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central and Northern Arizona. Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central and Northern Arizona board member and the executive board member co-chaired the McKnight Gala and is now a proud and dedicated employee of the house who has an unyielding passion for the mission, which I can understand. She considers it an honor, which I would too, to work for and be a part of something bigger than herself. Oh, isn't that something we're always saying? Maybe there's something bigger than us. Please help me welcome my guest today, Kerry Schulman.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm glad that you accepted.
It's nice to meet you and be here.
We've all heard about the Ronald McDonald House and all the other organizations, but we're not going to include those in this interview because this is about the Ronald McDonald House. So you're the CEO, but now you said that you actually worked there. First, I want to know a little bit of background. How did you get involved with this?
So I became familiar with Ronald McDonald House Charities when I was a McDonald's owner-operator.
Okay.
So I had a business here and I loved our mission, and McDonald's is a supporter of the Ronald McDonald House, and so I took the opportunity to spend some of my free time volunteering and serving on the board of directors and sitting on an executive committee and co-chairing a gala. And then when I sold my company in 2019, we were looking for somebody to run operations, and they said, "What are you going to do next? What do you think?" And I said, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And they said, "Well, why don't you come on board and run operations?" And so I did that for a little while, and then our CEO retired, and I put my name in and was selected as her successor in September of 2019.
You just happen to have the information on the resume because you've already worked it.
Yeah, it's been a part of my life for a long time.
So I read the mission statement. Tell me more about what the Ronald McDonald House is, because I don't think everyone's clear on it. There's so many other organizations that could be close to what they think it is, so I'm going to allow you to tell us what that is.
Yeah, so what we do is we provide temporary housing for families who travel to the Valley to receive medical care for their children. We serve families from all across the state of Arizona. But we also serve families who come from other states for specialized medical care. Phoenix is becoming a hub for premier medical pediatric treatment and care. So we have families that travel all over, and we have families internationally who come. We've had families from Italy and Puerto Rico and all different places around the world. So a lot of families from Mexico, being so close to the border. So families come to us through a referral through a social worker or a healthcare provider, and we provide them housing at no charge. All meals, housing, internet. We basically are a home away from home. So we let the doctors and medical care providers take care of the children. We take care of the families so they can focus on their child's journey to wellness. And then when all goes well, and we hope that's the outcome, they go home, and sometimes they stay with us multiple times or for extended periods.
So it's a respite kind of thing, or is it an actual housing that they stay for as long as they need to?
We actually have 3 houses here in the Valley, and one house has, well, altogether we have 78 rooms. So we can take up to 78 families at any given time. Families, we welcome siblings to come or extended caregivers. That was one of the things that I learned right away when I became involved with the house, is that not every family looks like a mom and a dad and a child. Every family is very unique and very special. And so we try to make it a comforting and welcoming place. And we never say no. We say, how can we help?
I like that.
And so it's just our job is to make things comfortable for families so that during what is oftentimes a very unexpected and stressful time, for them to have a place where they can come home after a long day, have a warm cooked meal from our volunteer groups, and just relax until they get up the next day and it starts all over again.
Right, and that's one of the things I can relate to with my own personal journey. I didn't have anything to do with being in the Ronald McDonald House, but I have a project I worked on several years ago as a volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House. And that was the one that was on, is it Central?
It's on Roanoke and 5th Street. So basically Thomas and 5th Street is our biggest house, yeah.
And it's been so long that I hadn't actually done a tour, so maybe I should come do a tour again.
You should. You should. You're always welcome.
Thank you.
You're always welcome.
And you have a statue of the Ronald McDonald also there, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Ronald is, it is something that we do around the world.
Okay.
So Ronald McDonald House Charities was started in 1974. The first house was in Philadelphia. And Fred and Anita Hill had a daughter who had leukemia. And what they found through their pediatric oncologist, Dr. Audrey Evans, who just recently passed, that families were sleeping in the halls. They were sleeping on couches in rooms. They were eating out of vending machines. And they said, we can do better than that. And so they collaborated with their local McDonald's owner-operator community, and they opened the first Ronald McDonald House in 1974. And since then, our first house here in central and northern Arizona opened up in 1985. And we opened a second house on the campus of Phoenix Children's Hospital in 2008, and a third campus in Mesa, which is pretty close to here, on the campus of Banner Desert Children's.
Wow.
So we have 3 houses now.
So I have a nonprofit as well, and I actually have one program that I have there. I call it a program. At Christmas time, this was just my 4th year. I have a tree that goes up. It's called the Tree of Angels.
Oh.
And so you've probably seen all the beautiful trees at Christmas time throughout the hospital there at the Phoenix Children's Hospital that are put up in care and for the kids and the families from different organizations all over the place. And so each year I put a tree up. It's the Tree of Angels, and I have these little ornaments that I made that have butterflies in them, and each of them have a name of a child that has passed away based on my own story. But these are the things that happen in life, and so we're never going to be prepared for death, but even though not one of us is going to escape it. But to know that you're there, and I didn't realize that, I'm like feeling like I'm definitely in a place where I'm also giving back, not just because of my personal mission, but you guys are doing the same thing. And to watch the Phoenix Children's Hospital grow through the years that I did, because I also volunteered there with my daughter, so all this is coming full circle. I love full circles, especially for me.
Me too.
It's nice that that's there, because there's a collaboration that you're helping the families, and there's not, like you said, it's not always the same mother, father, there's different dynamics when it comes to a family. But the one thing that everyone can come together on is that child that's needing that help, and the families who can't leave. And so part of the other program that I do is that I give gift cards to those families that can't leave at Christmas time. Because they can't. Financially, they can't do it. Probably emotionally, they can't do it either. So you had mentioned that people come from all over. Well, what is the process? You had mentioned that they have to go through a caseworker. So, and you never say no or don't want to say no, but there's got to be something that if you can't help, maybe then you send to another. I mean, how does this work?
Oh, we're really good at problem solving.
Oh, good.
We never want to turn a family away. So sometimes it's a planned visit, something happens, and the families have a little bit of advance notice. So they work through their social worker or physician's office. We get a referral. Our one requirement is that families live 30 miles out of where they are receiving treatment. But being that we never say no, there are times when we have situations of end of life. There's a terrible trauma, an accident, and the last thing we want to do is put a caregiver in a car where they might need to be at the hospital right away. So if they were to live a mile away, we'd provide lodging for them and housing. So they could literally be right across the street. And we're very strategic how we place families. We put a lot of thought into it. So our Cambridge house, which sits on the campus of Phoenix Children's, we save that for our sickest children. We save it for families who have a transportation barrier. Many of them do. And then we save it for kids who are going to be with us for a long time. An example would be a heart transplant, something like that, where they're here pre, during, and then post. The longest family we had was a little boy named Gustavo with a heart transplant. They stayed with us for 786 nights.
Wow.
So we have families that stay one night, we have families that stay 786 nights and everywhere in between. So, and we're really proud. If you've ever had a sick child, you know how expensive it can be. And for many of these families, it can be financially, detrimental to their entire world. And so we are very proud that we work hard and we fundraise really hard so that we can have families stay at no charge. So it costs us about $107 a night to house a family, and families come to us and they don't pay anything. So we're really proud of that. One of the misnomers that a lot of people have is when we say Ronald McDonald House, they think, oh my gosh, you're funded by McDonald's, right?
That was one of my next questions, because it's associated, and then you have the statue, so
Yes.
I would think that they have something to do with each other.
Yes, we have a lovely partnership with McDonald's.
Okay.
The partnership that McDonald's, if you've ever been through a McDonald's drive-thru, you'll see the little change coin dropper, or at the counter, you'll sometimes be asked to round up, and then sometimes they'll run different promotions in the restaurants, and that money will come back. So every time you buy a Happy Meal, a penny of every Happy Meal comes back to us at the house. And you'd think like a penny.
That's wonderful.
But we sell a lot of Happy Meals here. We get a lot of money in Happy Meal revenue. So that is the support that McDonald's provides us and our local owner-operators within the restaurants. And then we're very fortunate to have amazing relationships with our owner-operator cohort here, who I've had the pleasure and honor of working side by side with, and they are big supporters. So when we have a big brick and mortar project, like a remodel that, like we just did at Roanoke House, we're getting ready to remodel Cambridge, they like to support individually based on their relationship with the house. So it's a very interesting and unique relationship, but there is a Ronald statue in every Ronald McDonald house across the world, and we are all our own individual 501c3s.
Interesting. I would have. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
So, take us through the process of a family coming in.
So sometimes the best way to explain it is through a story. So I'll share a story
Yes,
with
please.
you. So we recently had a family from Kingman, and mom was 8 months pregnant, and she fell. And so they called for help, and she ended up coding in the ambulance, and the baby was deprived of oxygen for quite some time. The baby was airlifted here to the valley and put immediately into the NICU. So you can imagine the trauma, this unexpected tragedy, this baby who's now here. Dad's at home, he has 3 other children, just lost his wife. And so extended caregivers, grandparents have stepped in, and they have been staying. They've been with us now for about 3 months. So as soon as we were notified that there was this situation, the social workers reached out to us. We have very good relationships with our hospital partners, and they called and said, we have a family who's going to need some support for quite some time. And so they've been with us for a long time. The diagnosis is not what they were hoping, so they will be going home soon with hospice care and those types of things. But I will tell you, it has been such a joy to care for them and be there for them in what is a really dark moment, and they're just really special. So they're there every day at the hospital bedside working with the baby, and so that's just one example. And then you've got other examples where maybe you have a family who his child, breaks a bone or severely damages something, and they come for orthopedic care, or they come to Phoenix to have tubes put in their ears. I mean, something as simple as that. And then you've got children who come here for our oncology and hematology services. Those sometimes end up being very long stays, lots of micro preemies.
Oh, really?
Itty bitty 1 pound, 1.6 pound babies.
Wow.
We spend a lot of time, those families are very long-term stay with us. So we see everything. They come in, they check in with us. We know that sometimes an anticipated stay might be a week, and sometimes that stay goes on to be multiple weeks and multiple months, and we're just flexible. You know, we're here as long as you need us. How can we help you? How can we make this better for you? Is there any resources? And we just try and make it as comfortable as possible so that when they go home, they're strong enough to care for the child that they're now taking home on this journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody that we're all one trauma or tragedy away from change, and that nobody is exempt from anything happening to them at all. And to hear stories like this, to know that the organization is doing what it's doing is so heartfelt. So when people go out there and volunteer, which I always encourage to volunteer, I do a lot of volunteering, probably not enough hours in the day, but I always make sure that I go out there and give back, because you just don't know who's really needing it. And you never have to be known that you did something, but I mentioned it to you because I totally forgot about it until we were talking here. I was like, oh yeah, I volunteered there several years ago. But I will encourage anyone that's watching this or listening to this to find something that is gonna make you happy and gives a difference to the community that you're in. You might end up being someone on the flip side you don't know. I never take anything for granted.
Yeah.
No.
And to your point, it can change. You know, you just never know. So every day is a gift, and you know, I feel like my job is to make this world a better place for families. And if they didn't have us, they'd be sleeping in their cars. I mean, who could look at hotel prices? You know, it's so expensive.
Well, even rent in homes, you know.
So if they didn't have us, they'd be sleeping in their cars. They'd be sleeping bedside, which is not restful. We have some families that will never leave bedside, but maybe they have a second caregiver and they'll alternate. So they never leave bedside, but there's room for them at the house. So we always, you know, what's working, how, you know, if something's not working, let's change it. Sometimes they'll be staying at our Roanoke house and something will happen in the course of care, and then we'll move them closer to the hospital, over to the Cambridge house. Sometimes families so desperately need accommodations that they'll stay in our Mesa house, our Dobson house, and then they'll drive in to downtown for services. So, and we just make it work. We just, you know, whatever we can do to make it easy and to bring a little relief to these families is what we do.
So you just talked about how, however the extended time that they need, are there like really long time frames where people have to stay longer? Do you find a resource for them to be able to find their own place to call home instead of finding that to be the permanent place that they call home?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you asked that. Every once in a while we have a family that, you know, perhaps due to unusual circumstances, because they've been away for so long, they sometimes lose what was home in their community, and then where do you go? And so it doesn't happen very often, but it does on occasion happen, or there's a situation of trauma where the family doesn't want to go home. And so we work very closely with our social work partners to say, okay, this is kind of what we're seeing. Let's work together on a transition plan. We never kick families out. We work on the transition in what life is going to look like back when they get home, whether home is now, you know, Arizona, central Arizona, northern Arizona, or whether it's beyond in a different state. So it's very delicate, and families are so fragile. You know, and if you've never been around someone who's had severe loss or onset of an acute that turns to be a chronic illness and the unknown that goes along with that, it is very, very stressful. So our team, they know exactly what to do. We aren't social workers, we're not nurses, we're not practitioners or caregivers, but we're there to provide a home-like environment so that they can rest and take care of their kids.
So you've talked about some of the care that's needed. Obviously, that's why there's the staff there. Do you guys teach any of the extension of the care so that when they do leave the Ronald McDonald House, then they can continue to move forward
Yeah.
in their own homes?
You know, our hospital partners do that, so
Okay.
there will be social workers or caseworkers. Let's say a baby's going to go home or a child is going to go home with a port, or maybe an NG tube or some sort of apparatus. Wound care is a really big deal, so they have to learn how to properly care for those wounds so that they can go home and keep the child safe and infection-free. So we'll have some of those providers come and work one-on-one with the families. We let them tell us, hey, this is what's needed to get them home. And then they have those support services, and we stay out of it. We have everybody come in, we welcome them, we take them to the guest room, and then we let them work their magic. And then when everyone's comfortable that families are good to go home, then they can go.
I kind of think of like an extended care kind of thing where you've mentioned that you provide the meals and you provide the space. Do you actually provide maybe some sort of, how do I say this? I want to say entertainment, because they're not there to be entertained, but there's day in and day out in that same feeling of whatever that's being felt can take a toll on a person. And then when you've got other family members that are there of different ages trying to deal with the stresses that you had already indicated, is there anything that you guys do there that can take them away from there in that feeling?
It's a great question. We are getting ready to launch an art program. That will happen in Q2. So we had a funder come through and say, hey, we'll support this program. And we have a professional person who's an artist who's going to come in and do very simple projects with families. We participate in what's called Beads of Courage. We have an RMHC of Central and Northern Arizona bead. So we have a sibling program that we're getting ready to launch for kids. Pre-COVID, we had yoga, we had all kinds of people that would come in and provide services. We had a therapy dog team that would come in, and we're slowly getting back to that. But one of the things that's so special about Ronald McDonald House is that it's a communal living setting, and families lean on each other.
It's a Me Too factor. At least that's how I define it.
I mean, I think you've got a family who's adopting a baby. They're from Florida. They meet a family from New Hampshire who's adopting a baby. Both babies happen to be born with severe drug addiction. They're trying to get the babies off of that and healthy to go home. They have an instant bond. You have our number one diagnosis, believe it or not, is hearts.
Really?
You have a lot
Why
of
is that?
babies with heart conditions, genetic defects with hearts.
Wow.
People are always surprised. Most people think it's more of an oncology, hematology diagnosis, but hearts is our number one.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we try and make it very peaceful. You mentioned Christmas.
Yes.
Very difficult time to be away from your support system, your family. So we have a wonderful volunteer. Her name is Karen Spangler-Phillips. She runs what's called Santa's Workshop.
Oh.
And we run it for 3 or 4 nights in a week. And families, we set up a whole Christmas shop. And families come in and they shop, and we wrap all their gifts, and then we deliver them to their room so that they have Christmas while they're with us, or they're getting ready to go home and they take Christmas home and they don't have to worry about it. So it's really fun. We have people that come and do face painting and balloons and all kinds of stuff, and it's just a way to bring the holidays to the families when they can't be home.
You know, the holidays are supposed to be like this special, great feeling, and somehow it doesn't always feel that way. When you think about what you just shared, and then what I know I personally do, and other people that do stuff, it makes us feel good with that down feeling of someone else can't do this crazy enough that it works both ways. That is so nice. So we want to give some credit to the staff that's at the Ronald McDonald House, because without them, we wouldn't have what we have at Ronald McDonald. So tell us more about the staff.
Yeah, so we have an amazing, amazing team. We have a whole group of guest service coordinators and guest service managers. Our houses are staffed 24/7, 365 days a year. So we always have a team on campus to assist with families. We don't have check-in or check-out times. It's whatever time the family gets there and whatever time, you may be discharged from the hospital at 6 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. So, but our guest service team, they make all the magic happen. They help the families with any essentials that they might need. Sometimes families literally are not expecting to stay and be admitted, and they have nothing but what they're wearing. So we reach out, we work our magic, we get them all the resources that they need. Sometimes they don't have a car seat. So they really, and they always know I'll say, just make it happen. Just do it.
I like that phrase.
Yeah.
Let's
make it
just
happen.
make it happen. It's no longer
just
no,
make it
it's
happen.
just make it happen.
Yeah. And so we have a facilities manager who manages and oversees all of our facilities to make sure that everything's working properly, families stay comfortable. There's always going to be issues they're like 3 little boutique hotels almost. One has 18 rooms, one's 16, and then 32 at Roanoke. So, Elkin manages that. We have an amazing fundraising team. A lot of people think, oh, you're a nonprofit. Well, we're a business. And the only thing that's really different is the way we file our taxes. So we have to make sure that we are fundraising and bringing enough money in to sustain operations, which the development team does an amazing job. I spend a lot of time fundraising and out in the community sharing what we do, inviting people for tours, so you should come.
I will.
It's really amazing to see the houses. And, it takes a village. And it takes a team that is really dedicated to the mission of what we do, because you see families in their darkest moment, and sometimes it's hard. We lose a child, and those days are tough. They're hard on the team.
Everybody's affected. It's not just the family.
Everybody's affected.
Anyone that was touched by that individual.
And some families are with us for so long that they really become part of our extended family, and we get to see those kids grow up over the years, and we get to see when they have really great days and when they have setbacks, and you really become a part of their journey, and it's really fun. And having the siblings there is, all of us love that, because it's just it's like magic. And when you're having a hard day, you just go out in the hallways and you just see
kids
you see
everywhere
little
doing
kids
whatever.
and you just hang out with them, and it's really fun, and they kind of bring back that, okay. And kids are so resilient.
They are.
They're so resilient, and they're so hopeful and joyful, and their families are there to be the strength, and our caregivers, our hospital partners and physicians and nurses and therapists and all the people that work with all these kids, nobody can do it alone. So it's really so nice to be a part of something. I drive home every day and just sit and reflect on the day, and I'm always thinking about what happened that day and how we can do better, and what could we have done differently, and would it have made a difference, and just learning day by day about how we can be better and serve more families, and be there when people really need us. And we're the only ones that do what we do in the Valley.
I didn't know that.
We're the only ones that provide this.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. So you're probably going to have another campus then.
It's so funny, because we are looking to expand and grow. As the Valley keeps growing, we're like, okay, we have to serve more families, and how are we going to do this? And, and right now it costs us about $10,000 a day.
A day?
A day to run our operations. And people don't know that, but we have 3 large campuses. Our Roanoke house sits on 5 acres, so it's a lot. We have one of the things that I'm really proud of that you guys should really know, and if you come take a tour, we'll show you, but we have standard guest rooms, and then we have family suites. So if a family is bigger, or they have extended caregivers with them, or siblings, they have a little more room. And then we have apartments. 2-bedroom, full kitchenette, washer, dryer apartments in each house, so that if you have a child who's immunocompromised, or you have a family who's going to stay with us for a long time, or they have teenagers, we take kids up to young adult age of 21.
Really? Okay.
Yep. So our hospital partners would consider pediatric care up to the age of 21. So sometimes 22, and we've made exceptions for kids that come back and they've hit that 22nd birthday, but they still need care. So we always make it work.
I'm going to start saying that. Let's just make it work.
Yeah, let's just make it work. We never say no. That's what we always say. We never say no.
It's a much more comforting thing to say anyways than we'll see. It's definitely like, let's make it work.
Yeah. No, we never do that, because it sets people up for disappointment.
Yeah.
So we just figure it out, and if we have to ask for a little forgiveness later, then that's what we do.
Well, life's tough enough already, and then you're being told, we'll see. No, let's figure it out.
Yeah, and sometimes, kids they have setbacks, and sometimes they're unexpected. And so you have the ebbs and flows of what that feels like as a caregiver and a family. And so every day's different. Every family's unique, and it's just a joy to be a part of it. It's really great.
Thank you for being that person.
No.
Some people would say, oh, you're sitting next to, we talked about this earlier, a certain title to an organization, but you're just a regular person doing something you're passionate about. And you gave me the opportunity so that I could let everyone else know more about who the Ronald McDonald House is and a face behind it as well, and giving a shout out to everyone that makes it happen.
Yeah.
Because there are those things that we're secluded from. We really are, unless you've actually walked the journey. And so kind of similar with which I do know.
Yeah,
and so that also is why I sit here, and I have so many people that I sit and listen to their stories, and I say I'm grateful just to deal with my own, even though some people say I can't imagine, and I don't get that option. That can't imagine is my norm, as these families are, whatever they may be. And so you guys are there to give them that support that they probably wouldn't have found anywhere else because they don't know where else to go.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Navigating healthcare and resources and services that may be available is very overwhelming. So we just try and make it as easy as we can.
Or they don't even know where.
Right, or they don't know where.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you find that people have been running Airbnbs and have taken out extended mortgages or sold cars to pay for things, and you just said, no. Like, we have everything you need, and it costs you nothing. Come stay with us. And so that feels really good. And then when you get to meet so many wonderful people, our volunteers, you'd mentioned, we could not do what we do without our volunteers. It's so important for our families to have a well-balanced home-cooked meal. And our volunteers within the community fill those spots every single night in our houses.
That's
So,
good to know.
yeah.
I think I did part of that too back in 2013. I got to be one of those people. So now I'm going back. How many times have I volunteered? Apparently a lot. That I remember doing that one time, and it feels good again.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, was there anything else that I didn't ask you? But I think you pretty much covered everything. So I do have one final question. If I only had one question to ask you or anyone else to know who they are or get an idea of who they are, what they're about, it would be this question. Based on your journey of life, what message would you leave everybody?
I'm a big believer, and I used to really not like when people would say this to me. You never know what's going to happen, and that every single day is a gift, and things, that I had planned on in my life maybe didn't work out a certain way. But then as I look back, I think, well, of course it didn't, because you were meant to be doing this. And so I think just be patient, give yourself some grace. I'm a big believer in helping other people, so I filled my bucket with that. But just be patient and give yourself some grace. Sometimes there's things that are beyond our control that take us to where we're really meant to be.
I love how you broke it all down, because it's true, and we don't like that. We have to be patient, and I'm like, I don't like that word at all. But now that I've seen things, like I mentioned earlier, I've got this whole full circle thing that I didn't realize it, but then now it's allowed me to be here with all the different things I went through, to have an appreciation more so now as to be patient, Christine.
Be patient.
I was like, no, I don't like that P word.
Yeah, I always think, just giving things pause. I just kind of have a 24 hours. Sometimes something will happen in my day, or, and I'll get worked up about it, and then I sit back and I think, you know what, after, sleep on it, give it 24 hours, and then see if you still feel as emotional about it. and then make decisions on how you want to move forward. And it could be that with anything. It could be that with a sick child. It could be that with a situation at work. It could be that with somebody cut you off on the freeway. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
That's always going to happen.
That's always going to happen. Or, you're like, why are you tailgating me? Like, slow down. But, there's all different kinds of things. And, we all have a purpose, and it takes a village, and we all need to help each other. Everybody needs a little help once in a while. No one gets through life without needing a little bit of help.
No, and we all found that out in 2020, but we're not going to keep revisiting that because we do know that was a reset for everybody, every walk of life, everything that had been taking place, that it's very true.
Yeah.
So I think from now on, I'm not going to hear the word be patient. I'm going to say, I'm going to put that on pause. Pause sounds so much more manageable for my brain.
Well, it's been so nice. I always love an opportunity to share what we do, because to your point, people have probably heard about us, but they don't know what we do. And we serve hundreds of families every single year. And if you're interested in volunteering, if you're interested in coming down for a tour, reach out. We'd be happy to show you the amazing work. We can talk about it all day long, but when you actually get to see it, it's really magical. So the information you just gave made it magical too, because it gave more of an understanding. So thank you. I thank you for your time.
Oh, anytime. Like I said, if I have an opportunity to share what we do and how we care for families, it's a pleasure to be with you. So thank you.
And thank you for being our sponsor today. That's in itself an honor. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, another great story. I want to thank my studio sponsor, the Motivated Mind Group, a global creative agency located right here in downtown Chandler. And again, I want to thank the Ronald McDonald House Charities for sponsoring today's episode. If you have a story you want to share, know someone who has a story, please email me to the address of stories@christinehotchkiss.com. And if you'd like to be a sponsor, please also email me to the address of stories@christinehotchkiss.com. Until next time, everyone, I wish you well, and you take care.